Good morning. Let me start out with an announcement. The California Energy Commission is streaming today's business meeting via the Energy Commission's YouTube channel. Today's streaming is a test of the system to determine technical capabilities. We hope to formalize the use of streaming for future meetings. Just a reminder, today's effort is a test. We'll see how it works. Great. So let's start with the consent calendar.
Move consent.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consent is adopted 4-0. Commissioner Hochschild is absent. Let's go on to item 2.
Good morning, good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Joe Lawyer, Senior Mechanical Engineer from the Efficiency Division. I'm here to present for your consideration the National Environmental Balancing Bureau NEB 2016 Update Report to be approved by the Energy Commission to their Non-Residential Mechanical Acceptance Test Technician Certification Provider Application, or ATTCP. Mechanical acceptance tests are functional tests that are required by the energy standards for newly installed mechanical systems. They ensure that the mechanical systems work as designed. Organizations may apply to the Energy Commission to become an ATTCP to provide technicians with the training, certification, and oversight to perform acceptance testing. With the adoption of the 2016 energy standards, an ATTCP must submit an update report to the Energy Commission for approval. For the NEB update report, we have determined that the substantive adjustments to the NEB Quality Assurance Program meet the requirements of the 2019 energy standards. We have determined that the non-substantive adjustments to the application meet the requirements of the 2016 energy standards. We have documented our review in the staff report, which is posted on the Energy Commission website and was made available for public comment. No comments have been received. We recommend that the Energy Commission confirm the Executive Director's findings and adopt his recommendations. NEP representatives are here today, Curtis Worley and Amber Ryman may be online. I thank you for your consideration. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Let's start with, is there anyone in the room who has comments on this? Certainly, you're welcome to come up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Curtis Worley, current committee chair for the NEB Title 24 committee. I'd like to thank the California Energy Commission for consideration in this matter. NEB is looking forward to becoming a 2016 acceptance test certification provider. NEB values all the hard work and the effort that this commission and its contributors have given. I would also like to thank everybody for showing up today. Appreciate that. And again, NEB would really appreciate your affirmation and a vote for this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? I believe we have Amber on the line.
Commissioners. I also would like to, tag on to Curtis's comments. NEB is definitely looking forward to an approval of the 2016 ATTCP today. A lot of hard work and energy has gone into putting this, getting this program off and running. And with that today, if we do get an approval today, we'll definitely get the ball rolling again and get us moving in the right direction to have this program succeed. So we're looking forward to it, and we definitely thank you for your consideration and time on this matter.
Thank you. Anyone else on the line? Okay. Let's transition to commissioners. Commissioner McAllister.
Yeah, just briefly, thanks, Joe. I've been following this application and approval process just as all the rest of the ATTCPs. And on the mechanical side, I think we're in good shape. We have good breadth of coverage. We have good providers, and we're looking forward to getting the program really pulling the trigger and getting it rolling in earnest. And just as a reminder, quickly, the reason for this program is to make sure that our mechanical systems in our buildings, our larger buildings, and all our buildings really are installed properly and functioning properly in a way that's checked by a professional that understands those systems. And so these providers and the trainees that they train, they are a critical piece of making sure that the professionals that are out there, technicians that are out there checking systems and commissioning them are up to par, and that the savings are there as we need them to meet our goals. So this structure is new and I think coming to maturity, and through everybody's hard work. So thanks to Joe and staff and certainly all the providers and applicants. Thanks very much. So I'm obviously supportive of this. So I'll move item 2.
I'll second it. I'll just add that, yes, this is great to see, is the growth of this market and additional certifications here.
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. This item passes 4-0. Let's go on to item 3.
Commissioners, Chair. We, similarly to NEB, we are also here to present the National Energy Management Institute Committee, NEMIC, a 2016 update to their ATTCP application. We have determined that the substantive adjustments to the NEMIC Quality Assurance Program meet the requirements of the 2019 energy standards. We have determined that the non-substantive adjustments to the NEMIC application have meet the requirements of the 2016 energy standards. We've documented our review in a staff report, which was posted on the Energy Commission website and made available for public comment. No comments have been received. We recommend that the Energy Commission confirm the Executive Director's findings and adopt his recommendations. NEMIC representatives are here today and available online. David Bennett is available online, and we have Randy Young and David Dias here in person. Thank you for your consideration. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Let's start with comments from anyone in the room. Okay. Then fine, let's go to anyone on the line.
Hello?
Mr. Burnett, please go ahead. Okay, again, is there anyone on the line who wants to speak to item 3? Okay, well, let's transition to commissioners.
Yeah, it's a similar story. I think we had two proposals that we essentially brought to do the same thing on the agenda today, and both quality, both up to par. So I want to thank NEMIC as well for bringing a good proposal, and looking forward to getting you guys up and running, and again cranking up the system out there in the market.
Absolutely, and I agree with that. I'll
So move item 3.
second.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So item 3 passes 4-0 again. Let's go to item 4. Thanks, Joe.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Peter Straight. I'm with the Standards Development Unit of our Building Standards Office. The item I'm bringing before you today is a new local energy ordinance from Marin County. Our office encourages and assists local jurisdictions in developing and adopting local energy standards that go beyond those in our statewide building energy efficiency standards. Today's ordinance is the 16th we've brought before the Commission under the 2016 standards, and the second one from Marin County. We're actually quietly proud of the success of this program. Local government agencies wishing to enforce locally adopted energy standards must, by statute, apply to the Energy Commission for a finding that the local energy standards require buildings to obtain equal or greater energy savings than the current building energy efficiency standards that apply statewide. Staff reviewed Marin County's application and posted it for a 60-day public review period. Staff finds that Marin County's ordinance and materials meet the requirements for consideration by the Commission, and our Executive Director has recommended approval for this item. The ordinance adopted by the Marin County Board of Supervisors requires enhanced efficiency targets for newly constructed buildings. The ordinance also provides alternatives to the enhanced targets for residential buildings. Specifically, low-rise multifamily buildings and typical single-family buildings can instead be all electric, and single-family buildings that are 4,000 square feet or larger can instead meet passive house requirements. It's worth noting that the residential targets also include an adjustment for solar photovoltaic systems that ensures the targets are met by efficiency improvements and not using the solar PV credit that's currently available in our software under the performance approach. The ordinance was very much a team effort. I'm going to read a list of folks involved because I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Marin County staff worked closely with the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, or BayREN, Pacific Gas and Electric, or PG&E, Intercomp, the Davis Energy Group, Misty Bruceri and Associates, and TRC to assess and adopt 4 cost-effectiveness studies that were submitted along with their completed application. I want to compliment in particular Marin County's interaction with our program lead, Ingrid Neumann, as being both positive in spirit and responsive to the needs of this proceeding. With respect to the California Environmental Quality Act, Marin County's environmental planning manager submitted a notice of exemption with their application, stating in part that implementation of the ordinance is intended for the protection of the environment by reducing resource consumption and waste generation. For this reason, staff recommends that the finding be made and approved, and the Energy Commission resolution be signed. I'm available to answer any questions, as is Alice Zandmiller with Marin County, who is attending by phone.
Thank you. First, is there anyone in the room who has comments on this? Anyone on the telephone has comments on this? The transition. No. Transition Commissioner McAllister. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got a good brief, been following this and got a good briefing recently on it. And I think there's some innovation here, and I think we should, at least the superficial level kind of call that out. So Marin County's decided to go beyond the 2016 code, and with energy efficiency and push in different ways, sort of the 15% or beyond. If you have a traditional dual fuel home, but they've sort of given people an out that they can be basically meeting code if they choose to do an all-electric building. And so in a way, they're incentivizing people to do all electric without requiring it, and sort of letting that market, trying to sort of help that market shake out a little bit. And so, by virtue of the fact that all of those options at least meet our current 2016 code, they're certainly okay for us to approve here at the Energy Commission. But I thought that was an interesting approach to allow people, require some furthering of our goals beyond the basic standards, but then have some creativity in how people actually comply. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing how the market responds to that, and sort of how what percentages of folks choose to do what part of it. But in any case, that's the big high level picture. So if nobody else has any more comments, what is it, number 4? I'll move item 4.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So item 4 also passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Let's go to item 5.
Thanks, Peter.
Good morning, Chair Weisenmiller and Commissioners. My name is Armin Angulo, and I'm representing the Office of Compliance Assistance and Enforcement, where we work offering compliance assistance services, investigating and enforcing violations of our appliance efficiency standards. Our legislative authority provides for assessing monetary penalties for violations, and also established the Appliance Efficiency Enforcement Subaccount to deposit these penalties, funding our program, including this agreement. Regulations require the enforcement of appliances to ensure energy efficiency savings are achieved from the appliance standards. We inspect and test products offered to California consumers to determine the compliance with applicable standards. Our current agreement with University Enterprises, Inc. instructs Sacramento State University's Engineering Energy Efficiency Lab to perform enforcement testings of these appliances. This agreement expires June 30th and has successfully tested approximately 216 appliances. Sac State's Engineering Lab Manager also provides consultation services, meeting with manufacturers and business owners to discuss testing procedures and results. I am here today to ask your support to approve the new agreement for 3 more years. This has become more than just managing the contract. It has blossomed into a relationship with our local university, where we share our passion to achieve and promote our mission. We also offer a workplace for student assistance there. While Sac State provides an excellent labor pool for us, it's almost like our own little minor league farm system. We're bringing up the minor leaguers to the big leagues. But we at least expose them to what we do here, and it's been great. We also coordinate tours of the lab for legislative members and their staff, Department of Finance, and other program stakeholders, where again, our passion for the work we do and our department mission shines bright. It promotes goodwill, and it gives people a chance to have a good first-hand look at what we're doing. Our office is doing some good work together with a local university, playing a key role performing these mission-critical services, benefiting the commission, the state, and the community. Staff recommends approval of this agreement, allowing us to continue this productive relationship, supporting the effective work we are doing. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Let's start with this. Is there any comments from anyone in the room? Anyone on the phone? Then we can transition to commissioners. Commissioner McAllister?
So the enforcement, you're all familiar with the enforcement program because we went through the whole rulemaking, you know, not long ago. I think we were all here on the dais at that time as well. But it really has, as Armin says, it's really become a positive thing within the Energy Commission. I think, you know, it sits in executive office, and you know, Rob and his crew do a great job with it. But I think, Paul rather, do a great job with it. And I've been really impressed, not just with the sort of testing on the SDSU side, but also on the, the Sac State side, but also with just the way that they interface with our legal department and just that whole ecosystem we've created where the you know, it's not intuitive really, but the relationship that you mentioned, that sort of positive relationship building actually even exists between legal and the people that we are catching and you know, working with, threatening to fine and that kind of thing, because it actually ends up creating a exchange of information that's very helpful. And so, you know, people in general want to comply. And so, so helping them do that and being, you know, non-confrontational about it, I think is really a great approach. And so, you know, we have to give Rob Oglesby a lot of the credit for sort of putting this in place, and Drew for managing going forward, and then Paul and the team for keeping it, including Armin, for keeping it really positive and just very effective. So a cornerstone of it is the work that we have testing devices at Sac State. So this contract has my full support.
So, you know, I'll just add that this is a really important contract, and Sac State's done a great job for us on the testing side. So I'll just join Commissioner McAllister in the thanks to you and the team, and strongly support this contract.
All right, I'll move item 5.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This passes 4-0. Thanks. Let's go to item 6.
Hello, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Elizabeth DeYoung, and I'm from the Geothermal Grant and Loan Program within the Renewable Energy Division. Today, I am presenting an interagency agreement with the Department of Conservation's Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources. The Energy Commission, through the Geothermal Resources Development Account, is authorized to fund technical support projects. This short-term contract will provide the Energy Commission with a detailed technical assessment of approximately 32 unused geothermal wells throughout California. The division will compile information on low-temperature geothermal wells that are unused and not appropriately plugged and abandoned, and will develop a plugging and abandonment plan for each well identified. Deliverables will be provided in a format useful to both the Energy Commission and to the well owners and/or operators. It is in the interest of the state to provide technical and financial support that will help lead to the ultimate plugging and abandonment of these unused wells that are a burden on local governments and small public agencies that may not have the support or resources to conduct the work themselves. An overarching goal is to protect fresh water, other natural resources, and public health and safety. Energy Commission staff have prepared a CEQA notice of exemption for this project. We have identified some minor typographical errors in the scope of work that will be corrected in the final agreement documents when executed. Jack Tershell, Amar Rao, and Amanda Taylor from the Department of Conservation are available to answer any questions in regards to this project. We request approval of this item, and I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room with comments on this item? Anyone on the phone? Okay. And again, let's transition to commissioners. And obviously, this is important. You know, I think all of us have really been very supportive of geothermal. And at the same time, moving forward, as you get to the stage where basically the production is gone, then you have to make sure you cap the wells. So certainly it's important to move forward on this at this stage, and you said it. And it's certainly a good role for the Energy Commission to provide support to the local governments in Dargo to go forward. So thanks.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll move approval of this item.
Second. It's all yours.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's passed 4-0. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Let's go on to item 7.
Good morning, chairs and commissioners. My name is Nelson Pena, and I am with the Local Assistance Finance Office in the Efficiency Division. Today, we are requesting approval of the Energy Conservation Assistance Act loan, also known as the ECA 1% loan for the city of Weed, also known for the home for the world's largest sawmill in Northern California near Mount Shasta, at least back in the 1940s. The application is approximately for $1.6 million to implement the installation of multiple separate projects, which includes the following. 4 separate single-axis solar photovoltaic systems on the city-owned water treatment plants, including 2 solar photovoltaic aeration mixers at one of the wastewater ponds, totaling to a 222 kilowatts. Replace the electric resistance heating for high-efficiency mini-split systems for the city hall. Reduce air leakage for caulking, insulating, and resealing around the window frames, which will help reduce the city hall's heating cost. Install smart HVAC thermostats for the city library. Retrofit 60 high-intensity discharge lighting with LEDs and Wi-Fi dusk to dawn controls. And lastly, replace interior and exterior incandescent and T12 lighting with LEDs at the city hall, the city maintenance shop, and the city library. The total project is estimated to save approximately 610 kilowatts per hour of electricity annually, saving the city of Weed an estimated of $96,000 annually utility cost. We have determined that this loan meets the simple payback of approximately 16 years. Therefore, we request approval of the city, of this item for the city of Weed. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. So is there any comments from anyone in the room? Anyone on the line? Commissioner McAllister?
All right. Thanks, Nelson. This is great. I want to just highlight this. We all know about ECA and you know, rave about it, and it does a great job, and the staff really does a great job. This project in particular, I like it because it demonstrates this buildings as a platform approach. You know, they're really looking for places to use buildings to do various things at once. So they're they're retrofitting various things, putting on generation, sort of you know, doing a broad array of things all at the same time in an integrated way. So I think that's just smart management. So happy to support it. So I'll move item 7.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This item also passes 4-0. Let's go to item 8.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Monica Redman. I'm with the Efficiency Division, and I'm here to ask your approval of an agreement with the County of San Diego. As a way of background, in February 2016, the County of San Diego adopted a climate action plan to address sustainability and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In 2014, about 1/3 of their total emissions were generated from electricity and natural gas used in buildings. So reducing their buildings' energy use through improved efficiency and renewable energy is an important strategy to achieve climate goals. However, as is often the case, the County of San Diego has limited funds, and so they must seek out and take advantage of incentives offered by other organizations. Fortunately, the Energy Commission offers the Energy Conservation Assistance Act, ECA, which authorizes the Energy Commission to provide revolving loans to public agencies for energy efficiency, demand reduction, and renewable generation projects. We are pleased to support the County of San Diego via this proposed ECO loan. The County of San Diego would like to borrow about $261,000 in order to install interior LED lighting, exterior LED lighting, and demand-controlled ventilation at their Edgemoor skilled nursing facilities. Annually, this will save approximately 537,000 kilowatt hours of electricity and 76,000 in utility costs. We reviewed the supporting documentation and concur that the proposed project is technically sound. After just 3.5 years, the total energy bill savings will exceed the project cost, so this proposed loan more than meets the EQIP loan program requirement. We request that you approve the loan. Thank you for your consideration, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Is there any comments from anyone in the room? Anyone on the line? Okay, Mr. McAllister.
Thanks, Monica. That was great. And just, I guess I'll just highlight how cost-effective LEDs are at this point, because the lighting revolution is just right upon us. So, this is not in the grand scheme of things, and not a big loan, but it's got a really fast payback, and it's going to save them a lot of energy. So it's great. And obviously the heavier mechanical stuff like the previous one and generation, et cetera, has a higher cost, but also is cost-effective just on a longer time scale. So anyway, this I think it sounds like good management to me. So I'm happy to support. Item 8.
Second? Oh,
No,
sorry.
move
I
item
heard
8.
that.
Sorry.
Okay, now, go ahead.
Now I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Item 8 passes 4-0. Thank you. Let's go on to item 9.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jane Berner from the Fuels and Transportation Division. Today, staff is seeking approval of a contract with the Alliance for Sustainable Energy, LLC, which is the manager and operator of the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, known as NREL. This contract would be for $100,000 to support a project called the California Hydrogen Infrastructure Research Consortium. The consortium will be a partnership between the Energy Commission, the California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, the California Air Resources Board, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, and NREL, in which NREL will provide its technical research capabilities to assist California in decisions and evaluations related to hydrogen refueling infrastructure. We have identified tasks for NREL to address some of the technical issues that have surfaced as we work to achieve the state goal of 200 public hydrogen refueling stations by 2025 to support the growing market for zero-emission fuel cell electric vehicles. In August 2017, NREL issued a call for Cooperative Research and Development Agreement Projects, or CRADA projects for short. Proposed CRADA projects had to support the U.S. Department of Energy's applied research activities related to its hydrogen at scale concept, also known as H2 at scale. H2 at scale aims to reduce the cost of hydrogen production and distribution, enhance the flexibility of the power grid, reduce petroleum use and emissions, and create jobs. The California Consortium was one of the CRADA project proposals selected by US DOE. The CRADA enables California to leverage match funding from US DOE. The Energy Commission, CARB, and the South Coast AQMD are providing $100,000 each. GoBiz is providing $20,000 in-kind support, and US DOE is providing $540,000 towards this project. By pooling all of these resources, more tasks can be accomplished than would otherwise be possible with Energy Commission funds alone. These tasks include data analyses to identify trends in station usage and performance, and to provide technology validation to inform decision-making regarding infrastructure technical requirements. Tasks also include evaluation of energy system integration strategies, in which hydrogen can provide energy storage to the grid, and otherwise curtailed renewable energy can be a source for renewable hydrogen. This project will not only benefit California. Through joint applied research activities, it will also benefit other states that pursue hydrogen as a zero-emission transportation solution. Thank you for your consideration of this item, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any comments from anyone in the room? Anyone on the line? Okay. Commissioner Scott.
Sure. Thank you for Jane for the great summary. I don't have too much to add to the very detailed report that she gave, except to maybe highlight the obvious here, which is that this is a really great example of good government. It's local, state, it's federal, and we're working together to advance solutions and really move forward in the hydrogen refueling industry. So I appreciate the partnership and the good collaboration amongst the folks that Jane mentioned. And if you all don't have questions, I will move approval of item 9.
I wanted to just mention, so the inventor of this at Berkeley Lab, I think, was Sam Veg, right? Do you know him? Or
This is the next one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, no. Okay, so I'll second this item.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So this passes 4-0. Thank you.
No, he's here. Okay.
Let's go on to 10.
Yeah, sorry.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Noel Crisostomo, and I'm an air pollution specialist in the Fuels and Transportation Division working on electric vehicle charging infrastructure. We request approval of a proposed 3-year, $100,000 contract with the Department of Energy's Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory to launch My Green Car, a software and mobile application in California. My Green Car provides prospective car buyers with personalized information about how an electric vehicle and charging infrastructure can meet their mobility needs with minimal changes to their travel behaviors. The My Green Car application will educate Californians about the viability of electric cars, giving users tailored insights to inform their electric vehicle purchase decisions. This contract would provide the foundation for Berkeley Lab to commercialize My Green Car by connecting users to local car dealerships where they can buy the EV that is right for them. This contract will also provide the Energy Commission data on driving behaviors and charging preferences. Berkeley Lab will provide the Energy Commission reports on 3 years of data collected by the My Green Car platform, including which types of EVs are being considered and adopted, and the locations and types of charging infrastructure that is needed by drivers. These reports will help the California Energy Commission plan for charging infrastructure and forecast electric vehicle load throughout California. This proposed contract supports the 2016 Zero Emission Vehicle Action Plan's elevated priority to raise consumer awareness about zero-emission cars. This issue remains critical as recent research shows that consumers are not aware of electric car options that are available to them and have misperceptions about driving ranges and charging needs. In response, the contract will help implement the Integrated Energy Policy Report's recommendation to support the development of specialized consumer education and engagement tools, and will leverage local partners, including local agencies, utilities, and community organizations. Thank you for your consideration of this item. I'm happy to answer any questions, as is Samvek Saxena, principal investigator of My Green Car, who is here today, and there may be a few commenters on the phone.
Great. Thank you. Let's start with anyone in the room with comments. Please come on up and identify yourself for the court reporter and speak.
Hi folks, my name is Sam Saxena and I'm at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. Chair Weisenmiller, commissioners, thank you for considering the support of My Green Car and the opportunity to speak before you. I am leading the efforts to develop and bring My Green Car to market at Berkeley Lab. And so, to give you a little bit of a history, with the support of Berkeley Lab, US DOE, and EPA, My Green Car has been under development at Berkeley Lab for nearly 4 years. In that time, we've created an innovative system of vehicle physics models for nearly every car on the market, a user-friendly app that allows car buyers to compare any car they want for their own driving, and through these efforts, we've rigorously validated the technology and the demand for My Green Car. On the technology, we've shown that the underlying mathematical models are accurate based on lab and on-road measurements for virtually every car on the road. On the user experience, we've conducted beta testing on a pool of over 700 users, and we've shown that the app is user-friendly and intuitive to help car buyers with their decisions. Now, most interestingly, on the market demand, during our beta testing period, we've been able to measure clear signs of viral growth potential. We measured a 10% week-over-week growth rate in the usership of My Green Car, and we measured that over 40% of users were coming to My Green Car as referrals from other users. The viral growth potential was clear. Now, as we head into this next phase, what we're very excited by is that we have support letters from nearly 30 organizations across California, including utilities, NGOs, cities and counties, and more, who will help to accelerate the uptake of My Green Car. ARF VTP funding is essential for unlocking the next phase of My Green Car's potential by moving it from being a lab technology into a scalable commercial operation. This transition will help to ensure that all prior federal investments can be leveraged in a way that benefits all Californians, and ARF VTP funding will enable this transition. So, to wrap up, as we move forward and look to scale My Green Car, we're very excited to apply it to advance CEC's own goals, particularly in the application of applying our data and analytics to help CEC with micrositing of EV charging stations, which is a fairly large focus for the Commission. So with that, I'm very excited, and on behalf of our team, we're all very excited for the chance to have CEC as a partner in our statewide initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Anyone on the line?
From NRDC.
Please go ahead.
Hi, I work with the Climate and Clean Energy Department at the Natural Resource Defense Council, and I'm here to speak on behalf of NRDC in support of My Green Car. Here at NRDC, we really see that the electrification of the transportation sector is critical to meeting our and California's long-term climate goals. And NRDC has been working really closely with California utilities and government officials to promote electric vehicles. And some of the key principles that we see to reach those goals is to both educate customers and to strategically install charging infrastructure. Additionally, we are also looking to explore the potential for using TNC fleets to transition to greener fleets. And we see that My Green Car can help with all of these aspects. For example, they're actually able to reach out to customers that haven't previously considered electric vehicles. And we also see the potential for the data analytics to inform about how to educate customers, as well as to incentivize adoption and potentially locate where there are gaps in infrastructure. We have done numerous investigations to find similar apps and programs, and we've yet to identify anything similar or at the scale that My Green Car could reach, and therefore we both would like to promote and support the growth of My Green Car into the California sector, as well as nationally if possible.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Scott.
Sure. So I would not too much to add here to Noel's terrific presentation, but just underscore some of the things he said. One of the things we're excited about with this app is that it will help raise some awareness, and one of the key barriers to adoption is that consumers don't know that electric vehicles are a choice. And so this will really help, and once they know it's a choice, this will give them some data to really understand how my driving every day matches up with what different types of electric vehicles can deliver. And oh yeah, this could be a choice for me. So it'll be great to, I think, get that information out there. And I also am looking forward to the data and the follow-on analytics that this will bring. And I know you have a comment as well.
Yeah, I was waiting really for this item to come up. But yeah, so I mean, I sat down with Sam, some years ago now, and started carrying the app around in my pocket, and actually, it just generates a lot of great information about that's specific to you, that your transportation patterns, and then it sort of maps that onto the various characteristics of all the cars on the market, and then bubbles up the ones that look like they fit your lifestyle best. And so and since then, it's actually seen a lot of improvements, but. If we're going to transform the transportation market and really demystify all this is a great tool to do that. So I've been supportive and remain so, and am happy to support this item.
So I will move approval of item 10.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So this again passes 4-0. Thank you. Let's go on to item 11.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Matthew Wong, Air Pollution Specialist from the Emerging Fuels and Technologies Office of the Fuels and Transportation Division. Today I'm here to present for possible approval an agreement with Stratus Fuel Incorporated for nearly $4 million to design, construct, and operate a renewable hydrogen production facility in the city of Moreno Valley. The facility will use grid-tied renewable electricity to produce 100% renewable hydrogen fuel that will be used to supply the state's network of public hydrogen refueling stations. The project will nearly double Stratus Fuel's planned installation for a total production capacity of 5,000 kilograms of hydrogen per day. This is enough to refuel more than 1,000 fuel cell electric vehicles each day. The facility is expected to be operational by mid-2020. The renewable hydrogen production facility was evaluated by the lead agency, City of Moreno Valley, which in 2010 prepared an initial study and then adopted a negative declaration for the master plot plan that included industrial development. The lead agency recently prepared an addendum to the negative declaration for the industrial development, the renewable hydrogen production facility, specific to this project. Commission staff determined that the renewable hydrogen production facility itself causes no new significant or substantially severe environmental impacts beyond those already considered by the lead agency as discussed in the background documents. We seek your adoption of the CEQA findings that, based on the lead agency, City of Moreno Valley's CEQA documents and determinations, the proposed project presents no new significant or substantially severe environmental impacts beyond those already considered by the lead agency, as well as approval of this proposed grant award. Thank you for your consideration of this item. I believe we have Jonathan Palacios Avila, CEO of Stratus Fuel, on the line, and who would like to say a few words, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Thank you. Let's start out. Is there anyone in the room with any comments? Then let's go to the telephone line.
Hello.
Hello, please go forward.
Okay, excellent. Hello, my name is Jonathan Palacios Avila. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Stratus Fuel. I first want to thank the CEC for allocating funds for an in-state renewable hydrogen production plant. Moving forward with this plant will further the state's emission reduction goals, support publicly funded hydrogen stations, and also have the ability to fill greater than 3,500 fuel cell vehicles on a daily basis. For those of you who do not know Stratus Fuel, we are a hydrogen provider that is focused on providing renewable hydrogen infrastructure, which includes retail station outlets, production fuel, and fuel cell car sharing applications. And in closing, we kindly request that the CEC pass item 11, and we thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Again, anyone else on the line? I'll transition to Commissioner Scott.
All right. Well, thanks to Jonathan for being on the phone and saying just a little about Stratus Fuel, and another excellent presentation by Matthew in this space. I don't have too much to add here, but as you heard, as more fuel cell electric vehicles come into the California market, we're going to need additional fueling capacity. And we'd like to see that coming from renewable hydrogen sources. And we'd also like to see the costs of the fuel start to decline. And so this project, in my mind, helps us along that trajectory. So I am in strong support of it. And I will move approval of item 11.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
It's passed 4-0. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Let's go on to 12.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Sean Ransom, and I'm staff with the Fuels and Transportation Division's Zero Emission Vehicle and Infrastructure Office. Today, staff is seeking approval for an agreement with Contra Costa Transportation Authority for $200,000. Contra Costa Transportation Authority will develop an EV electric vehicle readiness blueprint. The blueprint will provide a comprehensive strategy for responsible, replicable, and responsive acceleration to zero emissions mobility community. This will be phase one of an expected two-phase effort. Phase one will be the EV readiness blueprint. The document will aid in the planning, siting, and EV market adoption for Contra Costa and all California regions. Contra Costa Transportation Authority will create online GIS maps that will serve as a living document, an analysis tool, and this will be publicly available. They'll identify shared mobility hubs. Shared mobility hubs will serve in heavily traveled zones and is designed to serve a wide array of zero-emission vehicles such as personal vehicles, heavy-duty fleets, and even electric bicycles. They'll create a best practices toolbox to maximize efficiency in deployment and policy adoption. They'll conduct an electricity demand analysis on a macro and micro level to determine any adverse grid impacts and strategies to mitigate grid overloads, and implement a workforce training initiative. This effort includes outreach to both schools and the automotive industry. The proposed project will support and accelerate California's goals to increase zero-emission vehicle infrastructure under the Zero Emission Vehicle Action Plan, and will reduce barriers to electrified transportation access in disadvantaged communities. Thank you for your consideration. On the phone, we have Peter Engel from Contra Costa Transportation Authority as well.
Great, thank you. Let's start. Is there anyone in the room with the comment? Then let's go to Mr. Engel on the phone.
Director of Programs for the Contra Costa Transportation Authority here in Walnut Creek. We're very thankful for this opportunity to get this funding so that we can complete our electric vehicle readiness blueprint. We feel like the blueprint is going to provide tools to advance EV adoption in Contra Costa County and throughout the East Bay. While we're excited about all of the tools that we're trying to put together with this blueprint, we're especially excited about the opportunity to work in disadvantaged communities with our workforce group to try and provide more clean jobs to people who live in those communities. So with that, I'd like to encourage you to adopt the item.
Thank you. Anyone else in line? Then let's transition to Commissioner Scott.
And thank you, Peter, for calling in, and Sean for another great presentation. This is a series of EV-ready grants that you have seen come through over the last little bit. We had a big set of them last month, and then this one as well. I want to actually say thanks to our EPIC team who had the Advanced Energy Communities Challenge, and I thought, gosh, that's a great idea. How can we do that on the charging space as well? And a great thanks to the transportation team who picked up that challenge and got it out into the EV space. So it's the same idea. We will have these planning grants. People will have the opportunity to plan what the charging and hydrogen refueling infrastructure looks like for their community, put together some of the partnerships in order to say, oh, hey, we're going to put it here. Are you in agreement with us? And then a chance, as Sean mentioned, in phase 2 to come back and compete for dollars to actually implement those plans so that we'll see that infrastructure out in those communities. So I'm really excited about this set of projects. I'm ready for the plans to be done already. Do you have questions? So I will move approval of item 12.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. Let's go on to item 13.
Commissioner Douglas?
Sorry, I had a note written here and I still missed my moment. So I wanted to make a disclosure on item 13A, correct? Item 13 in its entirety and item 14A, because UC Davis is a sub on item 13. And UC Davis is also involved in item 14A, and I teach every other year a renewable energy law course at King Hall, the UC Davis Law School. They're not involved in this contract, but I'm still doing this disclosure. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Brad Williams with the California Energy Commission Energy Efficiency Research Office. Staff recommends approval of the amendment with the California Home Building Foundation for a project site change from the original location in Chino, California to a new site located in Clovis, California. The new site is being constructed by D. Young Properties. This project aims to demonstrate community-scale deployment of newly constructed single-family zero-net energy, also known as Z&E, homes in the proposed location of Clovis, California, where at least 50 homes will be built to 2019 Z&E standards. The goal will be to provide information on real-world implementations of the California Energy Code, best practice Z&E construction techniques, as well as occupant behavioral impacts on homes designed to Z&E standards. As a result of the site change, staff is also recommending approval of new CEQA findings based on the lead agency, the City of Clovis's final environmental impact report, mitigation monitoring plan, and statement of overriding considerations. Staff has reviewed and considered the City of Clovis's CEQA documentation and has determined that the proposed work under this project and amendment present no new, significant, or substantially more severe environmental impacts. Thank you for your consideration. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Let's start with any comments from anyone in the room? Online? Okay, so let's transition. I think I'm going to frame it, and I assume Commissioner McAllister want to jump in. Obviously, one of the things we're really trying to do is move towards zero-emission buildings, and it's particularly challenging dealing with some of the, let's say, more multifamily sectors. So I think we really were looking forward to this project as a way of really helping us move forward on that front. This, and actually, I should say the next one too. So anyway, I think this is a good project, particularly with the adjustment, and we need to move forward on it.
Yeah, so the California Home Building Foundation is really, I think, a great counterpart for this, and has a reach that allows them to pick sites, you know, to sort of plug into sites all around the state, and so they've taken advantage of that here. But finding a site that's ripe and you know, in the right moment of development, and sort of has a builder who is aimed in that direction and has the mindset that they want to innovate, you know, has proven somewhat challenging. And so I think this they've landed in a good spot, and hopefully it's going to move forward expeditiously from here on out. And I think as we move forward, nominally, you know, this project took a while to sort of come to fruition, and now, you know, making a change. But the sort of Z&E goal was the originally expressed kind of focus of that RFP that originally went out. And you know, since then we have sort of shifted pretty, I think, consistently. We've been shifting towards an emissions metric away from kind of an energy metric, and so they're not that different. And so I think this, and we're all kind of, even with the developer and the project partners, you know, I think we need to kind of keep in mind that really let's focus on emissions, and kind of so zero net energy, you know, it's also a focus, but we need to kind of, with respect to carbon emissions, and the metrics that come out of that, and generating some numbers that actually show how these buildings can be built low carbon, they necessarily will be low energy too, but I think that could be a very high value output from this project, and I think all the parties know that. It's gonna, I think, help inform us as we go forward and through the summit, and kind of try to really pull the lever on changing metrics from energy over to emissions. So I think this project's really a great platform for that. So fully supportive. Oh, shall I? Okay.
You know, I'll just
okay.
jump in and
Yeah.
support that statement. And, you know, I think it makes a lot of sense to look towards an emissions and work our way towards an emissions metric while you know, obviously keeping our eye on cost effectiveness and savings and so on. And so it's a little bit of both, but certainly analytically being able to really capture emissions well and come up with strategies that deal with emissions effectively is really valuable. So I'm in strong support of this.
All right. Okay, I'll move item 13.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This item also passed 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to item 14.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Joseph Sitt, and I'm in the Energy Efficiency Research Office in the Research and Development Division. This morning we're presenting two projects for approval that resulted from a solicitation aimed at increasing energy efficiency retrofits, lowering costs, and developing a program design that can be replicated throughout the state of California. This first project is with Prospect Silicon Valley. This project will leverage funds from the state's Low-Income Weatherization Program Fund, also known as LIWIP, to perform retrofits of multifamily affordable housing in disadvantaged communities across California. More specifically, this project will attempt to streamline the retrofit process by standardizing the installation of a limited set of retrofit technologies that include high efficiency equipment, controls, and building envelope upgrades that can be targeted to a variety of building types and vintages. Second project is an agreement with Intech Incorporated. This project seeks to reduce costs, improve market acceptance, and increase the use of efficient technologies for existing commercial buildings through demonstrations in schools, refrigerated warehouses, and office buildings in Southern California. The project team will develop a platform for services for those seeking to do retrofits. The services platform is intended to improve the connection of efficient products and services to finance institutions, implementers, and utilities. The project will also document energy savings at each of the retrofit sites. They will use an assessment approach developed by the firm Open Energy Efficiency. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I understand the CEO of Prospect Silicon Valley is here as well, and she's also available for questions.
Great, thank you. First, let's start with any comments from anyone in the room.
Good morning. My name is Ruth Cox. I'm the CEO of Prospect Silicon Valley, and I want to thank the Commission for allowing me to speak today. Prospect Silicon Valley is grateful for this opportunity to serve the Commission and the state on such an important project. Multifamily dwellings in disadvantaged communities are in need of our support. They represent unique challenges. They have a large footprint in the state, and they have few resources to call upon. We have assembled a very strong team for this project, including the Association for Energy Affordability and the Rocky Mountain Institute, along with new staff within Prospect Silicon Valley who bring a great deal of relevant experience to execute the project. So we're looking forward to working closely with the CEC to ensure we achieve our goals, not just on this project, but hopefully the many projects that will be undertaken to serve this community in the future based on what we learn. So thank you for your consideration, and I am here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Any comments from anyone on the phone? And again, transition to commissioners. Again, I'll start out. I suspect Commissioner McAllister will jump in. But anyway, again, this is a very important area. When we were going through the barriers activity last year, we obviously identified this as one which needs focus. And I can't say we have solutions in hand, but we're sort of working hard and trying to build off of last year's record, the additional focus this year to make some progress here.
So at the same time, I definitely feel like there's kind of a groundswell of interest and realization of the need in multifamily, and I like this project. It's really great, and it's going to be a big lift. It's going to be difficult. We're going to learn some hard lessons. I mean, I think that's the reality of it. But you know, since the original barriers report, staff has been working on the CLIMB multifamily report that's out for comment now. And we heard a little bit about last meeting. And also, you know, we've been connecting with CSD, who runs the LIWIP program, and just seeing the incredible success that they're achieving. Been meeting with our colleagues and counterparts over at the PUC to talk about potential uses of the ESA money and sort of planning a little bit long term with them. Just brainstorming really, but I think there's some possibilities there for really productive use of that money and investment in multifamily. So there I think is a basis for a good conversation, maybe even with the legislature next year, about how to focus on multifamily and just really full court press it. Because if we're, you know, I've said this before, but I think we just really need to keep it in mind that you know, multifamily, and particularly low income multifamily, are some of our most vulnerable populations. And you know, 20, 30 years down the road, when we're all okay, have we achieved our emissions goals, and they haven't been along, and there haven't been jobs created, and haven't been real solutions figured out, like we're talking in this sector right now, then we're not going to be able to say we've been successful. And so we really need to prevent that from happening and make progress alongside all the other stuff we're doing out there in the market with the RPS and efficiency and new construction and everything. We really need to existing buildings and existing and new for low income, I think, are places we really need to maintain sustained focus, and this is a good project in that context. So fully supportive.
Yeah, I would add one of the themes that I heard both in the InTech project and Prospect Silicon Valley is to look to see how you could develop retrofits that you could make into a package or standardize. And I think that's a really important theme here. Again, echoing both what the chair and Commissioner McAllister said, making sure low-income communities are part of our clean energy revolution that the state is working to undertake is incredibly important. And I think in all instances, to be able to effectuate the level of change that we're talking about on that really tight timeline, we've got to have things that are standardized, that are simple, that are in a package form, that are replicable and really work. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what we learn from these projects. And I am happy to move approval of item 14.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This item passes 4-0 again. Thank you. Let's go into 15.
Good morning, Chair Wasserman and Commissioners. I'm Mike Ragley from the R&D Division, and I'm here to request approval of 2 grants that were competitively selected under the Microgrid Grant Funding Opportunity 17302. The first item is in Sonoma County Junior College. It represents roughly just slightly below $5 million in EPIC funds, and they're providing $8.6 million in match funding. Sonoma County was substantially impacted last year in the fires, and one of the primary focuses of this microgrid is to design a microgrid that provides the college, the local community, emergency service, shelter, and protection during climate change-induced events that result in unexpected utility challenges and outcomes and outages. They also will be working specifically on power quality inputs on the grid and to being able to provide better services to the utility. They'll also be automating and responding to grid needs for both real and reactive power, and also we'll be developing a business case for the future so this can be replicated with other universities and other similar communities. The second item from Humboldt State, again, is referencing roughly $5 million in EPIC funds and $6.3 million in match funding. This project is specifically looking at the improvements of reliability and value to the community and also to the local airport, as well as the local community for the use of clean DER to support their microgrid system. The Coast Guard also operates from this particular airport, and they will be providing services to help that ensure the Coast Guard can operate during contingencies to be able to provide the services they provide the local community and the state. It's also very unique in the sense that it's a combination of a CCA and an IOU working together in partnership to be able to develop a plan that will deploy for multiple customers and to provide services to multiple customers, but also to develop fair and reasonable rates that work for the ISO and for the utility too. I mean, for the ISO and the CCA, including developing tariffs and agreements that can be used as pilots to share with others throughout the state. With that, I'd like to point, for the Humboldt one, the microgrid was evaluated by the lead agency, Humboldt County, in a mitigated negative declaration. Staff determined that the microgrid itself causes no significant environmental impacts or substantially more severe environmental impacts beyond those already considered and mitigated as discussed in the background documents that are included today in the business meeting package. We seek your approval for the CEQA findings as well as approval for the 2 grants that I just discussed. We have online for Humboldt State the principal investigator, Professor Peter Lehman, and I understand the public advisor has a comment that she would like to read into the record for Humboldt State also.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Let's start with any comments from anyone in the room.
Good afternoon. This comment is from Thomas Stewart. Commissioners, the validity of a solar microgrid at the California Redwood Coast Airport in Humboldt County has some potential problems. 1, fog and weather conditions at the airport. In 1939, the U.S. government sent a survey team north from San Francisco to find sites within 1 mile of the coast that could accommodate a 5,000-foot runway. This is a quoted source from militarymuseum.org. Unfortunately, after the Navy opened the station, it discovered that Arcata had the 3rd foggiest weather in the world. On occasion, fog was set in for weeks at a time. As a result, the Navy failed to achieve the maximum intended utilization of the station, but did take advantage of the situation by conducting fog dispersal experiments. Humboldt State University Schatz Energy Center Research Center, SCRC, is an independent research facility on the HSU campus, and Peter Lehman is the director. In an interview with the Times Standard newspaper, he made the following statements about the project. It will by far be the biggest array in Humboldt County. He said, noting it will be 5 times bigger than the array near the Blue Lake Casino and Hotel. An array that size can provide enough energy to power 500 homes, Lehman said. The Blue Lake Casino project Peter Lehman spoke about in the Times Standard article went online last year at a cost of $5 million and is projected to save the casino about $200,000 annually in electrical costs. This was a Schatz Energy Center Research Center project and funded from the EPIC program. There has been no annual assignment done for solar radiation at the airport, the microgrid's location. There are 5 airports within a 15-mile radius of Eureka. CAL FIRE has bases at Neyland Airport and Ronderville Airport. The Coast Guard helicopter station is at Redwood Coast Airport, the proposed site of the microgrid. This area has many microclimates due to the terrain and proximity to the ocean. It is not uncommon to see fog in some areas and clear skies in others. In the summer months along the coast, it is also not uncommon to see fog and overcast condition. The second issue is potential glare issue. There's a potential glare issue that could affect pilots landing at the airport from 9 acres of solar panels. The main airstrip has a north-south orientation with planes approaching from the south and landing on runway 32. There are approximately 1,200 commercial airline flights landing at the airport each year. Number 3, cost of the project. The cost of this project is $11.3 million. The electrical savings are approximately $70,000 annually. It would take 161 years to pay back the project with the savings in electricity. Can you test the microgrid that has this much more generating capacity as projected by SCRC without having an adequate load factor? We have been fortunate to not have a major disaster here since the 1964 flood. We have many avenues of transportation in and out of our area, including Highway 101, 299, 36. Humboldt Bay serves as a main source of transportation fuel. Gasoline is barged in Humboldt Bay, which eliminates the need of 800 trucks on our highways each month. I have made many attempts to see the full project proposal from Schatz Energy Research Center to no avail. Thank you, Thomas Stewart.
Thank you. Now, is anyone else in the room? Then let's go to the telephone line.
I'm founding director of the Schatz Energy Research Center, and I'm speaking in support of this project. I can respond to specific things in the statement you just heard, but I have a statement to read first. I'll speak of 2 main benefits that will accrue to California ratepayers through the project. The grant funding opportunity that led to this award specifically called for projects that would, and I'm quoting, demonstrate the business case for advanced microgrids. This project does that. That's the first benefit. There are three emerging trends that are affecting the electricity grid in California. First, natural disasters are increasing in severity. The hurricanes in Texas and Puerto Rico and the devastating fires here in California are recent examples. These events are driving us to provide for increased resilience for our critical facilities. Second, utilities are transitioning to the smart grid of the future, integrating microgrids and distributed energy resources into their distribution grids. And third, community choice aggregation programs are proliferating in California. These CCAs are funding projects to deliver local renewable energy to their customers, and they are mandated to install energy storage in the near future. These three trends are coalescing in the airport project. The Redwood Coast Energy Authority, the administrator of our local CCA, will own and operate the 2-megawatt PV generator and the 8-megawatt-hour battery that are part of this project. PG&E, our local utility, will own and operate the distribution system. The microgrid will island and provide a renewable energy lifeline to our isolated rural region in the event of a natural disaster. This confluence of factors represents a viable business model showing how CCAs, utilities, and resilience planning can combine to strengthen and green California's electric grid. The second major benefit will be working out the cooperation necessary between our local CCA and PG&E. As the first front-of-the-meter multi-customer microgrid in PG&E's service territory, this project will be a test bed for the policies, tariff structures, and operating procedures necessary to integrate microgrids into California's electric grid. The lessons we learn in this project will create a roadmap for microgrid integration across the state. Thanks for considering this project. I'll be pleased to respond to any questions.
Okay, thank you. At this point, anyone else in the line? Okay, so let's transition to the commissioners. We may want to follow up questions with you. I was going to make a couple of observations to frame things. I believe this last week, PG&E has sent out letters to its customers who are in high fire risk areas, notifying them that they will cut off power if they need to. There are, in the commercial class, there are 4,700 customers in that class. I would also note that last weekend there were 20 fires in San Diego. So basically fire season has started and it's a pretty serious situation. I think in that context, certainly we've been reaching out to the utilities about, and the PUC, about really the need to move microgrids into the essential facilities in high fire risk areas. It's either that or diesel gensets. So, you know, it's time to move more towards the future in this area. So I think.
If I could just
Sure,
jump
you-
in, I will also add that I was recently in Humboldt County and we actually had a presentation on this project at the workshop we had down there, and I've had an opportunity to learn a bit about it. I agree with the chair that the emphasis on resiliency and being able to maintain reliable electricity in difficult conditions, especially when you look at Humboldt County, and it is a very rural county without much opportunity to get power in from other locations. So there are definitely some challenges there. I have heard that the airport's in a foggy location. However, I know that's been analyzed in the project in terms of solar output and sizing the project in order to make it work. And of course, the airport is critical infrastructure, and I believe, you know, we've got the project includes really all the entities you would need from the utility and the CCA and the airport and the Coast Guard to really have a very strong partnership that I think will benefit the region. So I'm in support of this item.
Yeah, I was going to ask first Mike and then Peter to respond specifically on the cost effectiveness questions.
Yes, sir. So the reference of $70,000 he mentioned, it was specifically for the county's net metering value that was in the proposal. This proposal has many value streams that will be assessed and valued over the next 3 to 4 years as they demonstrate and build their microgrid, including the reliability value, the value to the community, the airport, and the residents. There also will be a value obtained from their ability to participate in the ISO, which is estimated at over $250,000 a year in service they will provide. They will be measuring and reporting on their greenhouse gas reductions and their criteria pollutants. Again, but there will be some type of value to that we will determine. There's not currently a current number for them. And also, this one is, again, the value of the CCA and the IOU working together to develop rates and tariffs to allow them to operate with fair communications on both sides, provide that area from us. And then just in general, the reliability element in that community and their ability to demonstrate their capability to respond and continue services for critical facilities. So that $70,000 is just one revenue stream of many that we'll be evaluating. This is a research project, so they're estimated. And one of the things that we have to do in this one is they're required to do a specific M&V plan to actually measure their savings and report on what the actuals are versus what they estimated in their proposal.
Peter, do you have any comment?
I don't really have a lot to add. I think Mike covered it. Well, let me just say one thing. We have gotten huge support from our partners in this project. We have a crack team assembled, and PG&E has been a great partner before we submitted the proposal, and since they have another parallel EPIC project. They are using this airport microgrid project as a test case for integrating microgrids into their grid distribution system. So to them, it's a very important project, and they have been very helpful and engaged.
You know, again, I know certainly PG&E and I have been talking about how we can collectively move forward on microgrids in high fire risk areas. So, and certainly this is a good example of that commitment on their part.
So just one final comment, if you don't mind, a reference. I did have a chance. He reached out to the commission last week, and I was able to talk with him for about 45 minutes and address as well as possible for my ability his concerns. One of his concerns was getting a copy of the proposal. I instructed him how to do that. I know that the Grants and Loans Office has reached out to him by email to give him that information. So I know that if he maybe doesn't have it right now, the process is in place for him to get whatever copies of public documents he wants.
I'll make one more comment. He mentioned the glare at the airport. We have done an FAA-approved glare analysis using software developed by Sandia Labs, and all 4 approaches pass the glare analysis test. So this will be an FAA-approved project.
Great. Mike, would you just say in the record that the Grants Office indicated that he has a copy? Or knows?
I'm sorry, say again?
Okay. Well, basically, why don't you come up to the microphone? Just want to make sure that, obviously, speaking in the back there doesn't get into the on the record.
I do have a voice that carries, though. Rachel Grant, Kylie, the manager of the Contracts, Grants, and Loans Office, he does have a link to the proposal documents. He was provided a direct link, and there was confirmation that he received the link.
Okay, thank you.
So I just have one brief comment on this. I think this is absolutely a valid thing to be doing, and I kind of find myself often when we talk about microgrids as being a little bit of the they're not going to be good. Everything's not a nail, right? And a microgrid isn't sort of appropriate in all circumstances. And so I think part of our challenge is to figure out, learn where they are really needed, where that incremental reliability is really needed, actually, and that has concrete consequences, and then go to those places and you do as many of those as possible with microgrids, and over the course of that, get the cost down, and then we'll generate some technologies that'll then be able to permeate the distribution grid. But the goal isn't necessarily that the whole distribution grid be, a complete assembly of microgrids, right? And so I think we really need to think about this in a judicious way, because we have lots of approaches competing for dollars and ratepayer dollars, and all this at the end of the day goes back to the ratepayers. So just keeping in mind what technologies are, they're all really cool, but sort of which ones are needed in the distribution grid as we move forward, which will be many of them. But I always sort of find myself wanting to inject a little bit of just a little bit of realism into the conversation, and so, which is not to take away anything from this work. I think it's a really valuable work, and we need to get to a place where these approaches really become commodities, and the criteria by which you apply a given strategy is pretty much has a standard. So this will push us towards that time. Move item.
I'll move approval of this item.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This item also passes 4-0. Thanks, Mike. Let's go on to 16, the minutes.
Move the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved 4-0. Let's go on to 17, lead commissioner presiding member reports. Commissioner Scott?
Great. Just a couple updates for you all. As you may recall, the Energy Commission has had a collaborative with many of our ports here in the state for 3 or 4 years now. Port of San Diego, Port of Long Beach, Port of Los Angeles, Port of Hueneme, Port of Stockton, and Port of Oakland. We had our in-person meeting last week down at the Port of LA. It was a great opportunity to see some of the cargo handling equipment that has been electrified. So there's a few pieces of equipment that have been rolled off the line and are starting to be delivered to the ports. We also have some of the charging infrastructure for those vehicles being delivered not delivered, but they are at the ports and kind of ready to start charging up the vehicles. So it's great to really see some of this start rolling out. So we had an opportunity to talk with our friends at the port. And we're also working on microgrids, on lighting, and on transportation, electrification. So it's kind of all of the things the Energy Commission touches that are also of interest to the port, and how can we demonstrate things there together. So it was a great meeting. We talked about other things that we can be continuing to work on together, and then it was really neat to see after a few years of working together, there is equipment out there. It's getting ready to be put through its paces at the ports. And so a great thanks to Port of LA for being a host for us for that. So that will continue on. We'll continue to do meetings every other month or so, and then in-person meetings about twice a year. I also had a chance to speak with the Silicon Valley Leadership Group about what the Energy Commission is doing on the transportation electrification space and in transportation. So we talked pretty broadly about different things that are of interest to many of the members of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. So it's always nice to have that venture capital, finance overlay and perspective into the different types of things we're doing, and where are there ways that we may be able to collaborate or be more effective in how we get dollars out. So I appreciated the invitation to be able to go and speak with them. The California Air Resources Board, as you all are probably well aware, are celebrating their 50th anniversary all year this year. And a few weeks ago, I had a great opportunity to participate in the celebration that they had in UC Riverside. And the beginning of the day, the first panel talked about 50 years and the accomplishments of Air Resources Board, and and it started with folks not really knowing what was causing air pollution, right? So that's kind of where we started to where Air Resources Board is today. Then the panel that I was on was looking out for 50 more years of Air Resources Board. And one of the things that we all talked about a little bit is that if we're looking at our 2050 goals, that's actually not 50 more years of Air Resources Board. That's like 30 more years, right? And so all of the progress that we made over the last 50 years, we need that and some to hit the 2050 goals. And it was pretty interesting. I mean, we talked about smart cities, how to design cities in a smart way. We talked about what could happen in the transportation space. Because we had folks from UC Riverside there, and they will have the new lab that Air Resources Board is putting together. how do you measure things out of, what's the best way to start measuring pollution out of vehicles when we have vehicles with no tailpipe pollution, right? Or it's very, very minute numbers, right? And so how they measure and how they, the types of equipment that they're gonna have in the lab will change from what we've seen in the past 50 years to what we would see in the next 50 years. And then we had a chance to talk about the Citizen Science Brigade that we're going to have from AB 617, right, of folks being able to monitor all around their communities what's happening in air pollution and what does that mean going forward. How do you capture that information and really take it and turn it into effective policies or regulations or things like that for communities. So it was kind of a little bit of a hodgepodge, but a kind of a fun look out into the next 50 years of ARB. So I was delighted to get to be part of that. Courtney Smith, our Deputy Executive Officer, was able to join as well. So it was a nice chance for us to celebrate and support our sister agency. And then, as you all know, it's summer. And so I just want to take a minute to recognize my 2 summer interns are here. They're sort of in the back row. They're waving at you. Adriana Gomez, who probably looks familiar because this is her 4th internship here at the Energy Commission. I am so delighted to have her back. She's on her way to law school, so we're going to have to make sure she gets some good exposure in Courtney's office so that she'll come back again after law school to the Energy Commission. And then Claire Sugihara, and this is her first summer here at the Commission, and she's on her way to UC Davis. Has just recently graduated and is on her way to UC Davis, so you'll see her around full-time this summer, and then hopefully 8-10 hours a week into the school year. So welcome to both of you. We're delighted to have you. And those are my updates.
Well, let's see. My main event really revolved around a trip I took to Denmark for the EE Global and the Clean Energy Ministerial and the Mission Innovation and Nordic Energy Week, which were all kind of wrapped up and tied up into a bow during the course of a week in Copenhagen and then across the bridge in Malmö, Sweden. So just a few, it was a very, very interesting trip, super just packed with meetings and presentations and just good conversation. A lot of innovation going over there that I think in general we're not paying direct attention. It's far away, it's a different context, but so just going over there and talking to actual implementers of a lot of these innovative projects, it's worthwhile. And in particular, the International Energy Agency has an energy efficiency office now that really has legs. That's got commitment to the highest levels. It's going to be here. That took a while to happen, but it's a good thing. And so they were co-sponsoring EE Global, and we put together a series of activities, in particular a panel on data issues. And so, across the world, these issues of this question of how to use modern analytical tools for good policy, right? And we hear a lot of the stuff out in the marketplace for how the data gets used, but how can we leverage this, the new abilities we have to do better policy and to understand where we've been, where we're going? And so a lot of different jurisdictions are thinking about that. And so IEA may actually be willing to marshal some of that discussion at a very, at an international level to try to the extent it's helpful, develop some kind of norms and standards and share different analytical approaches and things like that. So I think that could be useful. Very, very early stage, but promising. On Malmö, over in Sweden, they had Nordic Clean Energy Week and Mission Innovation, and spent a day over there at an incubator, and in particular at a company that's doing these really advanced showers that save 90% of the water. It's recirculating shower. That's really a promising technology, I think. It saves the heat in the water, and you can take a long shower and really it just keeps using the same water. So it's kind of a luxurious product with no guilt long showers. It's like sort of nirvana for a lot of people. So they have a lot of IP that they're developing, and it looks very promising, particularly for institutional applications. Anyway, the way that they have received their sort of seed funding from the Swedish government and then the different kinds of support they get, I think are kind of instructive for us. It's different than the way we do it here, but also interesting. Also visited an incubator in Copenhagen called Blocks Hub, and really impressive facility. They're not focused on clean energy only, although there's a clean energy component. They're really focused on innovation in the municipal governance area, and I thought that was really interesting. So, how can we do Copenhagen and other cities better? You know, and so there's a big, heavy tech component to that. It gets into the data issues. It gets into the sort of service provision, optimization, that kind of stuff. There are a lot of smart people with little offices, you know, trying to drive their startups to market. And they actually bring, they partner with other countries to bring their researchers and let them sit there. So there are actually, it's quite an international set of activities going on there. So I thought that was a really interesting part of their model, to cross-pollinate with other cities for those reasons. I did participate on the Clean Energy Ministerial Buildings Roundtable, so very high level, you know, sort of single statements from the emissaries that were there, and that was sort of it, a wrap up, thanks for coming. But it did get a good conversation started, I think. You know, in 2 hours, you just can't get that deep when it's really about the sort of high level government officials. But a lot of follow-up work to be done. I talked with the British Home Office, and to Commissioner Scott, to your point, you know, on one of the items today, you know, when we're looking at existing buildings and trying to figure out, when you had an existing building, multifamily item, they have had, I mean, their struggles are our struggles. You know, their struggles, they have not had round just wild success on what they've been doing to try to standardize their approach to multifamily buildings for lots of different reasons, for different reasons than we're going to have here, than we have here. They have old buildings that are even harder to retrofit, I would say, and not a lack of standards, right? So figuring out what that sweet spot is in our context is going to be challenging, and I think you know, we're headed at it straight away. We're leaning into it, and hopefully we're gonna figure that out. I think there's a lot of exchange to be done with the Brits on their projects. Interacted a lot with our Mexico counterparts and our Indian counterparts. So you know, Governor's Office wanted, we all want to develop Indian relationships because there's some really great synergies there in terms of technology development and building technologies, and that could be, I think, useful on both sides. So establish relationships at the you know, high minister level. So hopefully those will pan out as the summit approaches. And let's see. Last thing is I touched base with the Ministry of Denmark right before I kind of headed out, and there is and I went and visited a plant. So this one plant just north of Copenhagen that produces 22% of the world's pectin. Okay, you know, jams and jellies. So huge plant. So if you go to the store and you buy a packet of pectin, it probably came from this plant. And it's part of a company that actually has a site down in San Diego, in the Port of San Diego. But they are doing amazing things on the combined heat and power front, on the district heating and cooling front, and on the heat pump front. They have these massive heat pumps that are really optimizing the way that cold processes and hot processes work together, really making sure that the waste from one feeds the other. And I think we could learn a lot from that, and particularly with the agricultural processing work that's going on here. I think you know, the idea would be to get a delegation of those folks over here to come kind of help us find solutions for that sector, and all along the way, when the Danes are ready, possibly work energy efficiency into the MOUs that we have with them already. There's a lot of interest in that. They're in the middle of a process of updating their energy policy right now, so it's sort of not quite the right moment. But when they get to a point, I think that'll be the moment to do something more formal in terms of MOU. And then my final day there, you know, everybody rides bikes in Copenhagen, so I rented a bike for the week and went to all my meetings on a bike. And best way to get around there. I mean, it's incredible. Everybody, it's like you're riding in a Peloton when you commute, and people are serious about it. But the last day I was there, I went and visited these two power plants that are being built right on the coast. One of them got some press for having a ski slope on it. Heard that? Did you see that? So they have one of them. So one of them burns wood pellets. The other one burns municipal waste. They're both together replacing an old coal-fired generator. And then beyond, they're on the coast. You know, beyond you just see dozens and dozens of massive wind turbines. You know, offshore wind right out there. So it definitely feels like the future. You know. But I went up there and looked at this power plant that was under construction, and sure enough, it's got a shroud around it. It's got this very, you know, Scandinavian design-looking appearance, and they'll rent you roller skis and you go down and you do a 180, and then you come down to the parking lot. And so that's part of their, incorporation of their, I guess that's a mitigation mechanism. Not more than visual, right? It's sort of community mitigation, and certainly the ultimate ramping resource. It had to happen. With that, I think it was a productive trip, and there are a lot of threads sort of to follow up on, but that's my main item. Thanks.
All right. Well, you're giving me ideas, Andrew. But in any case, I've just got a couple quick things to report. I had an opportunity to listen in on a presentation by the USD Energy and Law Policy Clinic students. Courtney may want to speak to that, but they did some nice research for us as we think about opportunities and potential directions of some of the enforcement work that the Energy Commission does. I spent a day on June 1st at the Manat Energy Forum, and that was a really nice discussion, actually. Some environmental representation, a pretty good cross-section of some business interests, and it was interesting discussion. I had a chance to just talk about California energy policy and where we're going and how substantial some of the changes have been that we've seen in our energy sector. And I think I'll stop there. I would just say I enjoyed the workshop on multifamily buildings. That was pretty interesting, and so I think that's my report. Thanks.
I think since our last business meeting, the thing I'll talk about is my trip to China. So we put together a trip to China. Part of the theme, obviously, was the climate summit. I think there's a lot of reasons why it's important to the governor to have China participating in the summit. So basically, I went basically 4 cities. It was like 9, 10 days. It was one of those incredibly packed things. You always wish you had more time, but it's first stop was Shanghai, and McKinsey was having their annual sustainability event there. And so I gave a keynote there on issues and participated in some of their panels. It was actually a 2-day event, and I, as I said, managed to make the second but not the first day. I was just, as you recall, I sort of came back from vacation, had a short week, and I just was not ready to get on a plane, on that Sunday as opposed to the Monday. So that was a good event, a lot of good contacts. Went from there to Guangzhou and gave a talk at the U.S.-China Clean Tech. Actually, it was a 2-part. There was basically Guangdong was having an event on sort of the province on sort of, general business development climate, and then there was a U.S.-China group that had an event. I was on a panel there, talking again about the energy issues, and that was a very good event. There, again, it's a province we have very deep relationships with. I mean, many Californians came from there in some fashion. So if you look at parts of China, and again, when the governor and I went on his first trip to China, that was one of our stops. So again, it was a good opportunity to connect with them and pursue some of the issues. Went from there to Beijing and met with the new minister there. The NDRC used to be the premier energy environment agency, and now it's been split. So we met with basically the climate part and with the Energy Foundation, talked again about scoping out the summit. Basically caught up with a number of players in Beijing. And the final stop was in Chengdu, which, again, the governor and I had gone there on his last trip. And there's a China-U.S. governors event, and it bounces back and forth from, say, the Oregon to China, and this was the China part. And actually, the first part of it actually was in Beijing, and you know, while we were in Beijing on that Monday, I met with Vice Premier Liu, who had just flown back from meeting with Trump the day before, working through the China-U.S. trade wars issues, thinking we had a resolution. I would say Vice Premier Liu is actually quite impressive. But we then went to Chengdu as sort of the next stage on this event. A lot of focus on trade. You know, the Chinese, I don't know if they still are, but we're looking for ways to enhance buying stuff from the U.S. You know, be it LNG, be it wine from California, be it, you know, pork from wherever, you know, it's just how to deal with the mythical trade deficit by, you know, purchasing more from us and trying to dampen some of the trade wars part. The ambassador was there. I mean, the governor of Alaska was there with 50 Alaska businesses. New Mexico had the lieutenant governor and 3 elected officials. So actually we were the only Democratic state there, although there was certainly a video from the governor and the governor of the state of Washington, but it was very centric, and certainly the Trump folks were very focused on how to enhance the trade opportunities for more their base. But again, it's a province where we have a very deep relationship with, and pretty good discussions about next steps there. It was interesting in terms of one of the stops, my second stop, the panel had a gentleman from the World Bank, and I guess the World Bank and the Department of Transportation used to have a program together to go to electric buses. And with the inauguration, the U.S. pulled out of that program. To the shock or surprise of the World Bank and, you know, the gentleman working on it. So anyway, it was, as usual, pretty packed series of events in China. And obviously it's a very large country, very diverse. I mean, we went from Beijing, which is relatively north, down to Guangzhou is really tropical. So, you know, covered a lot of space, a lot of time on domestic airlines in China. I would note they do have a new requirement for that when you land in China, you must be fingerprinted if you're not Chinese. And there were some issues with the technology that night, so it was fairly painful going through the process, but I assume they'll get it down over time. Yeah. But anyway, it's good. Chief Counsel's report.
So I have 2 brief items. The first is, as you know, we will be going into a closed session today, and the chair will momentarily be teeing that up for the record. The second item is just, again, very brief, but I'm at that point where I have a few more introductions to do. The first is I'm very pleased to introduce to you Jacqueline Moore, who might have left. She was back there. That's why I'm pointing back there. Jacqueline left. She is actually one of our new additions to the House unit. She's going to be doing quite a bit of work for the efficiency group. She had her own law firm. She was a partner in that law firm for several years, representing entities who would seek entitlements from and appear before state agencies. So I think having that breadth and depth of knowledge, I mean, to help us in our office, I think is going to be fabulous. So she was back there for the longest time. But
hopefully we didn't scare her off.
Yeah, I hope not. She's been with us for about a month and a half now. Some of you may have seen her in some of the meetings. And then I have 2 law students. I have Paige Samblonnet and Nathan Muir. Paige is with Loyola Law School. Nathan goes to the University of San Diego. They've already hit the ground running. I'm really, really pleased that they decided to join our office this summer. So now you have some names and faces when you see them in various meetings.
Great, welcome aboard. Okay, how about, let's go to the Executive Director report.
Good. Still morning. I have nothing to report. I would note, however, that the budget is nearing completion in the legislature, it appears, and we have some items that are important, so at the next business meeting I'll report out on those.
Great. Public Advisory report. I guess I should ask whether you folks should be standing at the mic, but anyway. Yeah. Okay. I think Drew reminded everyone, but sat down for his.
Okay. So the first thing, I'm going to do my introduction. I have a new intern, Maria Almaraz. I'll have her stand up. And so she will actually be helping in a lot of our workshops, facilitating the public comment when the Public Advisor's Office. Glad to have her here. On May 18th, I had an opportunity to attend the Asians in Energy in collaboration with the Hispanics in Energy. They had their first Renewable Energy Summit. So there was another opportunity to talk about Energy Commission programs. Also represented was ARB, Strategic Growth Council, and the CPUC. And then May 23rd to 25th, I'm really excited to report about this. I attended the Energy Out West Conference. I was one of the invited speakers, and they're an energy efficiency nonprofit for weatherization professionals and policy makers. So it was actually, I thought it was Energy Out West, it was just Western states, but there were actually representatives from 48 states and 4 different territories. And I spoke about partnerships, innovative strategies for building partnerships in the community. So I do a lot of work internally to help our staff understand how to reach out to disadvantaged communities, but it's also to look at the people who are on the ground, who are working. How can they access our funding, but how can they build partnerships and leverage? So we thought of some pretty innovative things, such as like gamification, because they have outreach challenges as well. So if everybody remembers like Pokemon Go, so maybe if you team up and people who come to your presentation to learn about the services, to take advantage, maybe there's some kind of way to gamify that to get people interested. Also, I'm pleased to say that the Energy Indicators Report came up. One of the sponsors is the Department of Energy. So they have had some feedback on our Energy Indicators Report. And so on their own, without me having to say it, they pointed a lot of people from across the country to look at that and the innovative work that we're doing. On May 30th, I also attended the Promise Zone 3rd Annual Local Partnership Celebration. Do any of the commissioners know what a Promise Zone is? So I just want to briefly explain. It's a federal designation awarded by HUD. And what it does is it puts together, it's no money involved, but it's just a designation that brings together federal, state, and local funding. And again, it was important for me to go to that because as we reach out to more low-income and disadvantaged communities to let them know about our opportunities, there are other programs that they can leverage. And if our funding, let's say, asks if you have match funding. So it's important to know what the resources are and to just see firsthand how those partnerships form. So I was able to attend that, and I also will say that the president of the chair of the Disadvantaged Advisory Group that we have, he is the executive director of the Sacramento Promise Zone. There are 4 in the state of California. So that was a great opportunity to be able to attend that. And one of the 5 targets of a Promise Zone is sustainable community revitalization. So the funding programs that we have fit really neatly into their mission. So I also, on June 1st, had the opportunity to meet with the Fresno Metro Black Chamber of Commerce, and they actually have a weekly television, or maybe it's a webcast program. So I was one of the featured guests to talk about Energy Commission funding. But this was a very important meeting because they just were recently awarded $10 million from the Strategic Growth Council, CCC Climate. And I wanted to go because a lot of times we look at advocacy or policy organizations to kind of get insight. I really wanted to see how this chamber was able to build a partnership to win a $10 million state agency contract. And maybe in our outreach, that kind of informs and helps us better prepare other organizations. So I thought that was unique that they were not a CBO. It's actually a, and after they received the $10 million, they got another $100,000 from the Fresno Housing Authority. So it just kind of opens the universe of the money that's invited. On June 6th, I attended a Women in Energy event in San Francisco. I sat on a panel with Carla Peterman, Commissioner Peterman with the CPUC, Erica Mackey, who is the co-founder of Grid Alternatives, and Stephanie Chin from Greenlining. And the topic was energy and social, economic, and racial justice. And I wanted to share that because it was a very informative and profound discussion, because as we began to have our policies and programs reflect our diversity commitment priorities, we have to look beyond just a zip code or geographical location and start to look at the character of those particular communities. And one good example that came out was if you take a 1930s redlining map which only allow certain ethnicities to live in a community, and you overlay that with the Calvin Borough screen, you'll see a lot of the same communities that are highlighted. So better understanding that dynamic will inform and improve our outreach to those communities, as well as make our priority more realistic. So that's my job as public advisor. So I'm reaching that, and I'm going to push that conversation as I meet with the different divisions and my one-on-ones with you. I just want to tee that up because that was a conversation that's starting, but my actions are now going to help this agency implement that. And so part of my duties as public advisors is actually in the statute is to make recommendations. So that's part of the recommendations, and I do have an ask of each one of you, and that is at your lead commissioner meetings, if we can have a standing PAO update. I know we might have a legislative update, but I like to have a standing public advisors update, and so that will allow us the opportunity to either identify opportunities where there could be better outreach at an earlier stage, or give an update on what we have worked with staff on those outreach opportunities. So that's my one ask. And then lastly, on June 8th, I attended a meeting in San Diego. It was very informal. It came about because someone from San Diego was not appointed to the Disadvantage Advisory Group, so they called with a complaint. And so I resolved that by saying, well, please let me know what are the concerns, and we can make sure that they're heard by the Disadvantage Advisory Group. So again, the standard procedural, attend meetings, public comment, they felt that might not be adequate, so I made an effort to go down there. And I met with representatives from about 20 different organizations that work in or represent disadvantaged communities, including the city of San Diego, the county. Greenlining now has a remote office person there. Bayview, I'm My Brother's Keeper, which is a Muslim faith organization in the community, Climate Action Campaign, Urban Farmers, and Clean Tech San Diego, as well as Grid Alternatives. So that was very fruitful, and from that conversation of just learning what are their unique needs and telling them about Energy Commission opportunities, they decided to form a working group. And so they're going to meet monthly, and the next meeting in July, hopefully we will be able to bring, I'll be able to bring the California Air Resources Board, as well as Strategic Growth Council, and possibly the Environmental Defense Fund, so they can access more agency. So very excited about that. And then lastly, I attended an event in San Diego as well from Groundworks at a senior center. And I thought that was important because, as I mentioned earlier, about looking at the character of these communities, not just so that they are, the geographical location, but what's the makeup? And so outreach to elderly community members is very different than anyone else. So if you're just emailing on the listserv, that may not necessarily work. And so as we look at our disadvantaged communities priority, we look at tribal communities, elder communities, rural, language, access communities. So taking all of that into account, and that's the perspective by having that standing line item on your lead commissioner meetings that I hope to be more informed and effective and targeted and intentional for. So that's my very short report.
Okay, thanks. Any public comment? Okay, so we're going to go into closed session. I'm going to read a script, and I expect us to be back at about 1 o'clock, would be the expectation. So the commission will now go into closed session. Agenda item 18 provides notice the commission may adjourn to closed session with its legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 11126E to discuss litigation to which the commission is a party. The litigation matter for discussion is item 18F, Energy Commission versus City of San Jose and JUM Global, LLC. Agenda item 18 also provides the commission may adjourn to closed session with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 11126E to determine, among other things, whether facts or circumstances exist that warrant the initiation of litigation. The matter for discussion in this regard is item 18B. The United States Department of Energy's missed deadlines to review current energy conservation standards and failure to complete required analysis concerning certain types of appliances. Again, we anticipate returning to open session at about 1.